All right, good evening, everyone. We're live on YouTube and oh, sorry, I need to just mute it on Pump.Fun. We're live on YouTube on Pump.Fun. I'm joined with 563 DeFi on Twitter. I think he is the founder or one of the main guys at Blockmates, which is like a research platform. It's amazing. I love it. And yeah, he just asked me if I'd write an article for him. So we've been chatting a good bit and yeah, making a good connection. So I just asked him if he'd like to join me, talk about the markets, talk about what's going on, and maybe a bit about his background as well. So hope you enjoy. Welcome to the show, 563. How are you?
Doing good, man. Yeah, definitely not the founder. I'd joined Blockmates a few years back, but just as head of research over here.
Okay.
But yeah, Grant's the founder. It's a been a ton of fun. It's a very retail focused group, which I appreciate because you get so many different research firms out there that are very institutional focused, and we really try to lean into the degen side, lean into what's going on in the trenches, what people actually care about, and try to explain it in a way that's easy to digest and relatable. So it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah, like all the other research platforms, are just exactly so institutional, looking like not looking at the most like just taking off narratives. It's kind of more broad based, more like higher up in the food chain kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the other research firms do amazing work, but
Yeah.
I think it is just about what the end consumer really wants, and we try to give it to them.
Yeah, it's definitely the most fun research platform.
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
so yeah, if you wouldn't mind giving a little background on yourself, like how you got involved in crypto maybe, and then how you got involved with Blockmates then.
Yeah, sure. I guess going way back, my academic background's in aerospace engineering. Actually, got my couple degrees in that. I worked with NASA for a bit and on some military projects, but really fell down the crypto rabbit hole. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and started writing. The writing got picked up by a few places. I wrote for Bankless for a little bit, and then started writing for Blockmates here and there. And they were starting to spin up this whole new arm called the Meal Deal, which is like this premium subscription thing. And I raised my hand and said, I want to do this. I want to lead this. I want to grow this team. And for whatever reason, they let me do it. And yeah, it's been a fun ride ever since. We're growing the team. Obviously, you're helping out. And it's really grown into something really exciting from the community aspect as well as like the team itself. Really, really strong bench of analysts. And it's great to share ideas with amongst ourselves and also with the community too, because they probably find most of the stuff anyway. We got a lot of people with their fingers on the pulse in the community.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested in joining the Meal Deal, I think it's $100 a month. So I'll leave that in the description. And yeah, it's super good place for really, really early alpha and chatting and bouncing ideas with like a like-minded community and articles in there, videos, like all sorts of good things. But yeah, I can't believe you're an aerospace engineer. That's really cool. You're probably with Franklin, studying with Franklin or working with Franklin.
It's funny how much overlap there is, honestly. I've met a few people that went the arrow route that fell into the crypto rabbit hole. I wonder what it is. I don't know. I think Saylor studied that too.
Yeah, true. I studied astrophysics, so
Oh, no
kind of
way.
yeah, similar, but
That's cool,
not
man.
exactly the same. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So what made you discover crypto and just like browsing on Twitter, or what got you interested in it in the first place?
That's a good question. It
What
was
was
kind of
your
a
red pill?
gradual journey. I think a lot of people, they hear about it at first and they kind of dismiss it because it seems all this like scammy stuff. And that was me for a long time. I was pretty doubtful that any of this is like that interesting. But I think what really set it off for me was like DeFi itself. I mean, that's where the name came from, 563 DeFi, because being able to not only have money, but to be able to have these financial building blocks that really excited me. I don't know what it was, but it's like you get all these different primitives together, and suddenly you have this whole new financial system that you can just plug and play, and you can you basically do whatever you want. So that really excited me. I think actually getting on using Web3 and clicking buttons and downloading MetaMask way back in the day and actually using these protocols was really exciting to me. So that's what made me want to dig in. I wanted to learn more about it. I wanted to write, wanted to share ideas, even if they were wrong. And I think that's what really set me up.
Yeah. So you got interested in DeFi and then interested in writing. And
Yeah.
do you think do you recommend trying to get into writing for someone who's in crypto? Or I suppose that kind of depends if it's something
No,
you're
I
interested in
think
anyway.
I think everybody should write. Like, especially if you're making trades or you're trying to share ideas, even if you don't show anybody the writing, I think you should show people the writing, but just writing down why you're entering a trade, why you like a project, what would change your mind, I think is super valuable, because you can have these kind of abstract ideas in your head that seem really solid until you try to put it down into words and you're like, oh, I didn't really think about it like in this way or that way. Trying to form coherent theses around like trades or whatever is, I think it's really invaluable. And doing that next level of actually putting it out there for the world to see, to criticize, get some feedback on, I think is really important. And I really think most people ought to do it if they're active in the space.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of do the same thing, except like vocalizing it and verbalizing it on
Sure.
YouTube. But yeah, that definitely does make you like it forces you to, you know, think of an interesting topic, write about it, and think of the risks, but also think of like where this could go as well. So it is definitely a good exercise to maybe even you could do something as small as creating a little Twitter account and sharing your ideas there because it forces you to actually think through them because you have to kind of explain it to someone else almost.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people use their Twitter accounts as just like a trading journal. Be like,
Yeah,
bought this here because I like X, Y, and Z. I'm looking for this to happen. If this happens instead, I'm going to sell. If this happens, I'll buy more. I think that's a very helpful exercise.
yeah, for sure. And what would you say your trading style is, or do you kind of focus on Blockmates, or would you kind of focus on your own trading? Like, are you more of like a long-term investor or short-term speculator, or a bit of both?
I think it's changed a lot in the. I think it's kind of had to change for this market, especially because I think the market dynamics have shifted so much. Because I think year or two ago, I was a lot more longer term focused
Yeah,
because I think that's what worked a while back. Like we got into, the whole last cycle. If you just held something that was, ranked 50 to 100 on CoinGecko, it would go up a lot versus Bitcoin or ETH. And I don't think you can just throw a dart at that list anymore and pick winners that way. Um, I think it's much more flavor of the month or flavor of the day. Um, or you have to just pay attention to flows, whether that comes from ETFs, whether that comes from financial instruments like DATs, or like flows from the protocol itself. Maybe the protocol itself is making a lot of money, and DAT can go back and buy the token, and that's the flows that goes and becomes that marginal buyer. So I think I have turned quite a bit more into like shorter time horizons, just because you could have one basket of your portfolio that looks towards the flows that come from ETFs. So maybe like the higher caps, like just Bitcoin and ETH, Sol, something like that, or maybe something from the DATs, which I think are a little bit more risky. Or you hold stuff that has like ongoing revenue, like an actual business that goes back and buys the token, something like Hyperliquid. Those could be somewhat longer term, and then you could have a portion of your portfolio, which is what I do, that's more shorter term, shorter time horizons for whatever is, the rotation of the moment. And I think that's a lot riskier, and I don't think most people should do that unless they're doing this almost full time, because you will be late to things and you'll buy tops and you'll sell bottoms and you'll get rinsed. So I don't really recommend that for most people. And if you do it, just do it with a tiny bit of your portfolio, unless you're doing this full time, basically.
yeah, I agree 100%. It's been very hard for me personally to adjust to doing
Yeah.
that because I've just got it like weathered into me to be a long-term investor from investing in stocks and from investing in crypto early. It's like long-term investors get paid off and traders usually lose. So it's been very difficult. Like I get in early to things, but then I just round trip it. That's just kind of been the
Yeah.
story of this cycle. Probably for a lot of people, but yeah, for me anyway. So yeah, it is definitely some. And I kind of do agree though that there are pockets of crypto that you can kind of hold longer term, and revenue generation kind of seems like an aspect that there's always going to be a buyer, because if it's generating revenue, there will always be a buyer. So it shouldn't really massively underperform. It shouldn't go to zero, basically.
Well, you have to look at, I think, the token supply sinks and the token supply sources.
Yeah.
So you can have the revenue on one side, that's that token sink that keeps buying the token and burning it or whatever. But you're also going to have to worry about the supply side. So a good example of that is like Pancake Swap. So it has a bunch of revenue. So that goes back and buys and burns a token, but it also has a lot of inflation. So you have that ongoing sell pressure from people buying or earning the cake token. So you have to think of that. You have to think of like long-term holders. Are people up a lot over a short period of time? Are they do they have fiduciary incentives to sell because they have LPs they have to worry about, like from funds? I think it gets a lot more complicated. But yeah, I do, obviously in a vacuum, I think revenue generations is a very big one. It does kind of ground the token price in reality, because people start looking at like PE ratios, and no one was doing PE ratios on metaverse plots of land, right? So it's you kind of you get into a point where sometimes PE ratios start looking ridiculous. You can't really look at a PE of 1,000 and justify that as a buy. So we do get into the realm of businesses have to run like businesses and get valued by like businesses, but blockchain does afford a lot of scalability that I think people do sometimes underestimate.
Yeah, and I think finally crypto in general is, I think this whole rotation or it kind of shows that crypto is growing up and people are returning a little bit to fundamentals. I know we had like a year of
Right.
just meme coins, but actually the meme coins almost had more fundamentals than the 2021 VC coins. Or like they were just had unlimited tokens coming from VC, so it was like negative fundamentals. So you can see why meme coins took off, but now we have coins that actually have buyback, so it's even better than meme coins. But speaking on like rotations, there's been a lot of rotations recently, and you mentioned Pancake Swap. I think we were talking about Binance ecosystem season like 2 days ago, and it seems
I know.
seems to already potentially be over. Like, what do you think happened there? Do you think that's kind of completely done, or do you think that could come back?
I wouldn't count it out completely. I think CZ's draw more is is more intense than a lot of people think. So I wouldn't count it out completely, but I do think attention is so fleeting in this market. And if you make any kind of gains, just try to protect those gains and try to understand when the tide is shifting, right? When we start talking a new meta that starts popping up, well, the old meta is going to get no flows anymore. So you don't want to be the one holding the bag, which is annoying because you kind of have to be on top of the market all the time, or just hold Bitcoin and log off for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely seems that CZ is a little bit worried or a little bit intimidated by Hyperliquid, so they're kind of doing everything to create their own on-chain Binance themselves. And he's just kind of subtly suggesting that he's not worried and that he's like he knows about Hyperliquid and he knows about Jeff.
Well,
yeah.
It's funny, right? Because it's kind of the whole history of the BNB chain to take an idea that already works and having their own spin of it. So I don't really see it as like a change of structure. It's kind of how they've always operated. Right now they have 4meme. It's kind of like the Pump.Fun competitor, yet Aster, the Hyperliquid competitor. It's kind of just what they do. I think they're trying to improve upon those different projects. I don't know if they've succeeded just yet. I know these new efforts to kind of like geofence the bonding curve and whatnot is interesting. I don't know if you've been paying attention to that, but basically what they're doing is you can only buy these these new launches under 1 mil using their wallet, which means you have to be KYC through Binance. And I believe it's only certain places in the world that are allowed to buy. This is supposed to help with, sniping because you're KYC'd. You have to it helps with bundling in some ways. So I do think long term it's a good thing, but it also means that people that aren't using that technology are like locked out and can't get those returns that a lot of them are looking for. So maybe that's what kind of turned people off of Binance season, but maybe it'll make a comeback just because of like that being a healthier way to launch tokens. I'm not sure. Something to watch though.
That's very interesting. I didn't know about that at all, but it does kind of seem like a good way to make sure that it's not one individual on 20 different wallets who's buying up all the supply. It's, actually just a few people. The only way you could do that really is KYC. Go on.
No, yeah, agreed. Go ahead.
Yeah. I suppose moving on from that rotation, like kind of seems like there's other metas that are just taking off. I know these are probably kind of potentially just daily metas or weekly, monthly metas. I think the flavor of the last few days or the last days kind of seems to be taking off a lot is privacy. I know you were talking about it a bit this morning. What are you looking at there? Why do you think that's taking off and why do you think it's interesting?
Yeah, I think there's a couple angles to look at it. I think, well, Vitalik has made it pretty clear that he wants to work on privacy as part of Ethereum's roadmap. He had this really long blog post about it, but he's been talking about it for a very long time. But I think it's starting to gain some traction because he called out a specific protocol, Railgun, and then also Zcash has seen this crazy run. So I think that kind of shifted the attention towards privacy. And you get Lighter that's building on ETH that has a bunch of ZK proofs that they tout for a lot of security purposes. So that's showing some product market fit of ZK proofs, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I think you get the whole other angle of the Trump family might wanting privacy coins for nefarious purposes at some point. So you also have that to consider as well. I don't know if people are really talking about that part of it just yet, but I think that would honestly give it more legs than Vitalik backing it personally.
Yeah. Zcash has been getting some big shill, so it just went crazy in the last few days.
Yeah.
Railgun as well. What was I going to ask you? I forget where I was going. I suppose what other narratives are you interested in right now? Maybe not so short term, maybe a bit longer term. Like what projects do you think are easy full cycle holds or potentially multi-cycle holds if we're going to move away from the short-term trader mindset into the kind of the longer-term investor mindset?
Yeah, I think like we talked about earlier, I think you have to be pretty adaptable, but honestly, Bitcoin looks great at what it does. It's doing its job. It's being Bitcoin. I think Hyperliquid's still doing pretty well. I don't necessarily think Lighter is a better protocol at all. If people have ever used it, I was meant to say Aster. Lighter, I think, is an interesting case because it's a slightly different model. Yeah. In that, like, trading fees are free, so that attracts a lot of different types of users. But Hyperliquid, I think, is just best from a liquidity standpoint and from a UX standpoint. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do with like the HIP-3 markets. I think Trade.xyz is going to be a big one. I think Unit Protocol is going to continue to do really well over there. Yeah, I'm just excited to see what comes next. I think it makes sense that they'd move from a really performant crypto DEX into something that's more wide-reaching in terms of you can trade equities, trade stocks and bonds, you can trade anything really, as long as it's you can perpify it. I think we're seeing the great perpification live on Hyperliquid, and that's where it's all going to live.
And that's going to be on trade.xyz.
Yeah, that one looks pretty cool. I think they're going to try to do a like just stocks indices type trading market. So with HIP3, it's the Hyperliquid Improvement Protocol or Proposal 3. What they're going to be able to do is launch their own perps using the backing, like the technology that's underlying Hyperliquid, so Hypercore. They're going to be able to launch their own markets. So by staking, I think it's staking 1 million hype, you're able to spin one of those up. It's not an insubstantial amount of money. But I believe trade.xyz is by the Unit Protocol team, which is a very it's weird because Hyperliquid's quite incestuous in a way. I think they like their own teams. So I think it pays to back teams that are Hyperliquid native and have good connections throughout Hyperliquid. And that's trade.xyz. The trade.xyz does because they're backed from the Unit team, I believe. Who is the spot token provider basically on Hyperliquid, who hopefully has a really nice airdrop in the future and drops it to people that have held spot tokens over on Hyperliquid. So go do that if you haven't been doing that.
100%. Like if you're doing any sort of trading you're doing, should either be doing it on Hyperliquid or other perp dexes that haven't launched their token yet. I know you were talking about Lighter a lot. Do you still think that's worth farming? I think it's really, really hard to get points now. So
it is really hard to get points. I do think it is worth farming, especially because I don't think it's going to be rewarding volume as much as these other perp dexes. So if you have a decent size of portfolio to throw over there, I think you'll still do pretty well because I think they're going to reward open interest and TVL more than volume because they're getting botted like crazy in terms of volume. I don't think they really want to reward that anyway. But yeah, I'm just holding positions over there. If you're going to hold majors like Bitcoin or ETH or something, like you just want to hold that for a while. I don't see it too big of a difference just holding like a 1x perp versus a spot bag. And they have most tokens you want. Like I was trading Zcash over there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a pretty nice protocol too. And there's no fees, which is really nice. How the model works behind the scenes is for normal users that interact through like a website, through their front interface, you don't pay any fees. But if you want to interact through the API, like if you're a high frequency trader or a market maker that interacts with an API, you pay a fee, but you also get faster latency. So you're able to basically front run a lot of the retail traders and make money that way. So it's an interesting model versus something like Hyperliquid where it's it's not a flat fee, but everyone pays a fee.
So they actually do make money even though they don't charge fees to most people. Do you think or do you know if they're making a lot of revenue and are they going to use that revenue to buy back their token when the airdrop goes live? Because obviously that is going to have a massive impact on whether the airdrop's valuable, like how much revenue they're making.
I don't think that's live, or at least I don't think they publish that data. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Good question though. I've seen the volumes and open interest and whatnot, but I have not seen fee generation. That's a good question. I'm guessing they make plenty good fees, to be honest. Because there's like 2 bill of open interest, so there's plenty of money to be made from high frequency traders over there. I mean, the volumes are insane as well, but that's just because it's free to open and close trades, and people are farming it for the airdrop. But like I said, I don't think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think the Astra airdrop was today, actually. I think I heard it wasn't great.
Yeah, I don't think people were expecting it to be great either. It's funny because they're playing the game well, right? I think they are trying to game it as much as they can. They understand that the token price is sacred, and they're doing everything in their power to protect the token price. I believe most of the airdrop probably just went to Binance itself for farming like an insane amount of volume through there, and they're not going to sell the airdrop. And they also made it so you can either, as a trader, receive an airdrop or receive, I think, your payment, your trading fees back. So a lot of people are just going to like ask for a refund on their trading fees instead of actually getting the airdrop. So that's also another way that tokens don't come onto the market. So they're doing it really well, I think.
Yeah, I think there's other perp dexes. One that I'm looking at is Pacifica, which is on Sol. Is there any others that you think would be worth farming, or do you think that
Worth
narrative's a bit
farming.
late?
There's one called Paradex, which is interesting. I haven't farmed it yet. It's like a Paradigms dex that's using it's also free to use, but they're making money from payment for order flow. So market makers and high frequency traders can use that data and pay money for it. So that's interesting. I think people just realizing how big of a cash cow these perp dex markets are, and everyone wants a cut of it. So we'll see what comes out of it. I still think Hyperliquid's the way to go, but I can see how people would prefer something like Lighter, and maybe that captures some part of the market share where it's like a free trading experience. As long as they can match the UX and they can match the listing time. I think Lighter was actually first to list Monad pre-launch tokens perp. So that's interesting. I love seeing the competition. Honestly, I think it's better for us in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. And Lighter's it's pretty good. Like I used it.
I like it. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a very pleasant experience. I think what they obviously will see what happens post airdrop. I don't know. I'm less excited about the price action post airdrop than I think a lot of people are. I think people are a little over. I think people are just mapping one-to-one the hype price action to Lighter, but we'll see what happens. But there are more supply overhangs with Lighter compared to hype, for sure.
Yeah, and I suppose like there's still opportunity to farm within the hype ecosystem. Like I suppose hype is probably going to do another airdrop as well. Like it's not going to be as good as the first, but there's plenty of protocols that like pretty much no airdrops have happened on in the Hyperliquid ecosystem yet. They have their own chain and all their own apps.
Right.
Would you be bullish on the Hyperliquid EVM?
I'm pretty bullish to a certain extent. I think for me to be bullish, it has to be a unique protocol that can only exist on Hyperliquid, right? If it's something that you could just have on Ethereum, then I don't think it's that exciting. I think it has to leverage either Hypercore or it has to leverage something like HLP. So something like, I think Liminal is pretty cool in that it basically just farms funding rates, and it does that through Hyperliquid, and it does it through a bunch of different markets. So it's kind of like USDE, but throughout a bunch of different markets, not just like the ETH market. So I think that's pretty cool. I think Unit, obviously, you have to have spot markets. So Unit makes sense to farm as well. I think Felix is an interesting one. They're kind of like a bunch of different things in one. It's like a Morpho Vault lending market as well. They have a CDP stablecoin, and I'm hearing rumors that they're going to launch a HIP3 market as well. So that probably makes sense to farm. Eventuals is kind of cool. They're doing pre-IPO perps. I know they're getting into some hot water now because of their funding scheme for like their HIP3 market. People aren't too happy that they have to lock up their hype, but I don't really see a way around it. I think a lot of protocols will do the same thing, honestly. Basically, instead of they themselves coming up with the 1 million hype stake, they are offering folks like basically make an LST, and people deposit their hype in order to hit that 1 million threshold. But there has to be some amount of lock, because if they lose that stake, then they lose that ability to be a HIP3 market. So I don't know. We'll see what that app comes out of that. And besides, yeah.
I suppose that's a good point. It's like the best apps on Hyperliquid are the ones that are enabled by the hypercore to hyper EVM compatibility, basically meaning that the apps on the hyper EVM chain can tap into the liquidity on hypercore,
Right.
which no other chain really has access to that much liquidity. Like, so that's
Yeah.
kind of the unique selling point of the hyper EVM.
Yeah, or the matching engine, or any of the infrastructure that the hypercore has. I think, like you said, the liquidity is a big deal too. That's why I think it's going to be tough for a lot of these competitors to spin up, because why don't they just launch a HIP-3 market at that point if they're going to launch anything? So it's kind of the whole way that, how Uniswap launched hooks with V4, just because like instead of people forking Uniswap and building their own thing, just a slight tweak, now people can just launch on top of Uniswap as a V4 hook, and Uniswap gains all that volume and whatnot, the aggregators. I don't know. I think they were way too slow to do that, but it's kind of the same idea for these HIP-3 markets, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to those. I do think there's only going to be a few winners from the HIP-3 markets, but it is like a token sink, right? Because it's a million tokens you have to lock up in order to get on here. There's a bunch of other open questions for like the intricacies involved with listing different tickers, but I think that's a question for later on.
Yeah. So Hyperliquid right now is kind of seems Hyperliquid, Solana kind of seems to be a bit suppressed. Even Bitcoin is like so close to all-time highs, but it seems like it's getting suppressed by a big whale. But I am looking forward to the future of all of those tokens. We could talk about that as well, but I also wanted to talk about what we've been talking about a lot recently, which is prediction markets.
Sure.
Do you want to like give your thoughts on prediction markets and like how, number one, how you can get involved, how you can make money from them, and like where do you think they're going over the next few years?
That's a good lead in, man. You gave me a softball. So we just released this report over with Blockmates on the meal deal side, going through Polymarket, how to farm Polymarket, and basically generate some volume so you can get the airdrop, and do so in a way that's fairly safe, fairly risk-free. Nothing in these markets is risk-free, but we have a couple strategies on how you can do this. Whether that's through hedging or whether that's through arbitrage, which kind of the same thing. But we walked through a couple different ideas. But yeah, I'm excited for prediction markets. I think the light bulb moment for a lot of people happened throughout the presidential election. Just how early the prediction markets called it for Trump versus like the polling results did. They just had it dead on. I think they mapped out every single state, and I think they got 50 out of 50 correct. Whereas the polling numbers were way off. So I think going into the elections, definitely for midterms next year, it's going to be a big deal. But also we've seen the success of sports betting writ large, and people just want to speculate on every single thing. It just kind of gives you like black and white what's going to happen. You don't have to read the tea leaves of the market. It's very simple. Like you pull up, is the Fed going to cut by 25 or 50 bips? And the market tells, like, it's just very cut and dry. Whereas you kind of have to interpret it from the market in another way. So I'm excited for prediction markets. I'm excited that they're getting adopted more. I think Polymarket's looking to IPO. That's going to be huge. I'm definitely more excited for Polymarket than Kalshi. They've done some shady stuff, but yeah, I'm excited to watch where it grows from here.
Yeah, and the insider trading on Polymarket has been
That's
absolutely insane, because it's like it's still an illegal gray area. It's not really illegal yet, because it's like a prediction market. It's not like stocks, so I think it's legal still. But yeah, like make hay while the sun is shining. If you see an insider trader, just follow them. And I think people are speculating now that what the value of prediction markets, like what, instead of like trading fees, how they'll make money is from their information. So like it'll be like a Bloomberg terminal, of like
Yeah,
this is the most fresh information. This is actually what's going to happen in the future. This is what the insider traders are telling us, which like no one else has that. No one
that's
else has
interesting.
that information. So
Yeah, just like an
yeah,
API feed that like HFT traders can plug into.
exactly.
Um, that's interesting. Yeah, because hmm. Yeah, especially when you start tracking individual traders that apparently have edge in certain markets, I think that becomes super interesting too, because they have all the data in the back. Like they know all the traders, and they know, oh, this guy maybe he's hedging on different sports markets, but he gets most of them right. Or this guy is really good at weather prediction, or something like very niche that folks are getting really good at. And there's definitely a lot of edge to be found in Polymarket versus something like, I don't know, like crypto, where there's a lot more variables that you can't really see behind. Like these markets
Mm.
are very cut and dry. So like with the monad airdrop by X date, and you happen to know somebody that knows somebody that that knows exactly
Yeah,
when that's going to happen, well, there's your edge. I
yeah.
think, yeah, the
And
truth
there's no
comes
way
out
to
eventually.
Yeah, there's no way to there's no KYCs. There's no way to prove the person is insider trading. And I
Sure.
saw yesterday the Nobel Peace Prize winner was like a 100x in a day because some insider bid it from less than a cent up to like 90 cent before the announcement. So
That's amazing.
the insider trading is getting pretty crazy. But yeah, like I'm interested to see how Polymarket they're going through, which I don't think anyone has done before. They're going to do an IPO, and it looks like they're going to also do an airdrop, like a token as well. So I'm interested to see how they work together. But yeah, I'm extremely bullish on this airdrop. If you didn't know that, I think it's definitely something people should be looking at doing, because it looks really likely now that they are actually going to do a token. So I assume they're going to be airdropping that token to their biggest users.
I think that's the way. Yeah, it's a these guys do seem very crypto aligned. Like Shane is I think he participated in the ETH ICO, so
Yeah,
he's he's in deep at this point. I don't think he's gone anywhere, and they've teased quite a bit that they're going to do a token. So I do think it makes sense to play around on Polymarket. Whether you do that just purely from wanting to speculate on things, or whether you do it in a more tactical way where you're trying not to take on any risk, I think either one is probably smart.
yeah, and I wonder if like I assume the investors, like the early investors at this like $10 billion valuation, I assume they're going to be getting some tokens as well.
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends, right? Because when you go into an investor agreement, I'm guessing you sign up for the equity. So I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know. I
Yeah,
wonder if, because usually the SPVs will say like you're getting shares when we IPO or something like that. I'm not sure.
yeah. I wonder which one is going to be valued higher. That's,
That is, yeah, that's, I don't know.
yeah. I wonder which one gets the revenue, which one gets the money.
That's also it. Well, I think they would have the token for arbitration, right? Like
Yeah,
we've talked about that before, like how they have UMA right now, but hopefully they don't have to rely on somebody else's token to decide on markets if they're contentious.
yeah. There's been a lot of contentious markets.
Yeah.
I saw one the other day where I think it was Lithuania, uh, their sovereign wealth fund invested into Bitcoin ETFs, and then like the shares from um, will another country buy Bitcoin in 2025 basically went from 1% up to 80%, and then
That's crazy.
Polymarket, yeah, after the fact came in and said, oh, Bitcoin ETFs don't count. So it's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's like, oh, like that's a tough one. Like it really that should have been in the rules beforehand. So there is still like kinks to iron
yeah.
out.
You definitely have to read what you're buying when you get into a poly market. Like read the descriptions, because there are
Yeah,
loopholes quite often.
yeah. But that one didn't have anything. It didn't mention that in the description. So it's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's like it needs to be like the rules need to be much clearer. But I think for the most part, like they have, I don't know how many different bets you can make, but there's thousands of different bets you can make, so it's hard to get every single one perfect.
Yeah, just don't go all in every time.
Yeah, I would have been sickened if that to me, but yeah, that's the game. So yeah, don't risk too much. Just have a bit of fun, and that that's the way to go with poly market. What other narratives or what other sectors of crypto are you interested in for the rest of the cycle?
That's a good question, man. It's I do wonder if AI makes a comeback. I don't know. I think people were so fascinated by all these chat models last year that it was like some fascinations like, oh, the hockey stick growth is happening now. We're at this turning point of we're not going back. And I think people are they're a little disillusioned at this point. They've kind of gotten to the point where the models are only getting incrementally better step by step. And these new model releases aren't that exciting. I do think there's a tipping point at some point where the models become good enough to be like a personal assistant. So I think that's kind of cool. I think we're seeing early inklings of agents being able to manage funds in DeFi, which I think is pretty neat as long as you silo them off into certain protocols. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's like a game changer. I think when there's like a narrative that captures the attention of everybody, I think that's what you want. I'm just
it's hard to find that before the fact.
I know. Yeah, it's like how do you predict immaculate conception? Like I think it's more the privacy aspect is interesting. I don't know if this like this current basket is what runs, but I do think there's going to be a lot more shenanigans that go on with the administration just because of who they are and their goals to make as much money as possible and get away with that money. I think we've seen that within crypto, just whether that's through World Liberty Fire, through the Trump meme token, or through stablecoin regulation because of them having stablecoins. I'm wondering where that goes next. I'm guessing there's going to be some shenanigans with real world assets, whether that's tokenization of their property, so they can like exit those with like a great premium, or maybe it's something to do with on-ramp, off-ramps, or OTC desks in order for them to either get some bribes through or to off-ramp any of the gains they've made into different places. I could also see that coming to play with some different privacy tech too, because why not? I think I'm looking at those for now. I don't know. I think you just have to be adaptable because different ideas seem to pop up every week, and most of them don't have staying power, but I think a couple will. And last Q4 was exciting, so I think not just because of that, but I am excited for this Q4 going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the hottest narrative in crypto in the last few months has been stocks, not crypto.
Yeah, I know.
Stocks have been going crazy. Like AI bubble is happening in the stock market more so than crypto, but hopefully it comes back at some point.
I think it does. I think like we mentioned before, I think Bitcoin is so young in just an age that people forget how many large holders are still up a tremendous amount of money. And many of them probably just squirreled away their Bitcoin and said, okay, I'm not selling any of this until it hits X number. And a lot of them for that number was 100,000 apparently. I think a lot of them saw it go to 60K last cycle and they're like, I wish I sold some. So when this came around 100K, they're like, okay, now's the time. So I do think there is still supply overhang from all these larger holders, but I think we're seeing that distribution go on right now. And the longer we spend above 100K, I think the more distributed the supply gets and the less overhead that we have to punch through. Especially because we see the evidence on chain. Like you could see that guy doing all the Bitcoin sales on Hyperliquid. that was huge. I think there are other ones that are going on just behind closed doors through different OTC desks, but it's obvious that we're having to work through that supply. So I think once that clears up, I think Bitcoin just follows what gold's doing right now.
Yeah, we've had to go through big whales a couple of times in the cycle. I think the last time we were around 100K, we had to get through a big whale. And then in the like 60K region, there was the German government dumping
Yeah.
a shitload of Bitcoin on the market. But yeah, I think hopefully gold is a good precursor to what's coming, because gold has just been absolutely insane. Do you have any thoughts on why that's happening? Or
Well, I think people are finally wising up to the fact that fiat currencies just are meant to be debased because
yeah,
they're not based on anything. Um, I think the dollar might do okay just because everything else that it's being priced against is way worse. I think there's a Europe that's already at zero real rates, and the US is trying to get there. So that just happens from more dollar debasement or from more currency debasement. And people are going to look for hard assets. I mean, it's kind of like the whole gold bug argument, just the new version of it for Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, you also get, all those added benefits that we always talk about.
yeah. I suppose another reason that the dollar might not do so bad is because of like the entire world adopting stable coins. Um,
Yeah,
I suppose stable coins could also be a narrative for the rest of the cycle. Are you
I
like
agree.
interested? Yeah. What kind of stable coin plays would you be interested in? Like, do you like Plasma or Tempo or even Circle stock? Um, what are your thoughts on like getting exposure to the stablecoin narrative, or do you think that's kind of there's not really a great way to get upside in stablecoins?
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because I wish I could just buy Tether equity. I think that's what I
Yeah.
have. I think Circle has so many problems with it, but it's probably the cleanest way to express bullishness. Um, there are a lot of stable chains coming out, and I do like Plasma. The only fact is that it's already trading over 10, well, no, just under 10 bill. And there's a lot of people that are up a lot of money, and people are incentivized to sell a lot here. So
Mhm.
I think it has to work through a lot of pain. The only problem is I don't know if it can work through that pain while still gaining adoption, while still marching forward. I think that's their struggle, because especially there's going to be more stable chains launching soon. They have to contend with that fracturing of attention, fracturing of liquidity. So it's going to be tough, I think, for these stable chains to do well from an adoption standpoint and from a token standpoint, because it is kind
Yeah.
of two products at the same time that work very closely together. I think that's what Binance understands that a lot of other projects do not. Is like the token is the product as much as the product is the product.
Yeah. True. Do you think the stablecoin chains make sense? Like, I suppose their idea is that they're like the institutional rails for stablecoins, but like, do you think that will they be able to suck away the market share from like other like normal layer ones like Solana with or Ethereum for stablecoins? Like, what's the purpose of them?
Yeah, I think in a way they make sense because they can be purpose built. Just like I think the eventuality for a lot of these apps is just an app chain. I think that's what we see with Hyperliquid. Is it's a purpose built chain that's for trading. I think a chain for stablecoins makes a lot of sense too, um, because you can control every part of the stack for that purpose. Um, but I think there's going to be a lot of iteration between now and then, and the solutions that exist now are okay and they work good enough and they are in place at the right touch points, right? With the centralized exchange off ramps, the peer-to-peer payments, the point of sale payments. I think they already have those footholds. So it just becomes a lot of a BD game where you have to get in bed with the right um, like payment touch points for stablecoins. I think the whole way to frame these different stable chains is more of and people throw around this term a lot, but it's like a neobank where you have a payment network that you can also build other products on top of. So I think Plasma's perspective is we can make transfers free, and then all the additional things that ride along with that become the added on services. So it's kind of like, oh, you can open up a checking account for free, send money to your friends. But if you want a savings account, it's extra. If you want to open an equity account on top of that, that's extra. If you want to have professional services on top of that, that's extra. So I think that's kind of where they're heading. I know Plasma's working on Plasma One, so it's like they have yield generation, but also like a credit card. They're working on DeFi applications as well, where you have to pay some small transaction fees, and that'll go back to revenue. But it's weird because chains don't necessarily usually get priced based on revenue. They usually get priced based on comparables, and it's tough to compare. What do you compare a stable chain to? It's an application specific chain. So maybe you compare it to something like Hyperliquid, which goes back to comparing it with revenue. Because it's not, you can't really value it like you can Ethereum, where it's just network effects at that point. I don't know, I'm talking in circles, but I am excited about stablecoins. I'm just not sure how to express that bullishness on it.
Well, you brought up an interesting point there, kind of like the difference between layer ones and applications, and like, do you kind of believe, like, there are theories going around that, it's only really applications that make money should, have value, and layer ones are all grossly overvalued because, like, in comparisons to their revenue, they're just like they're not based on their revenue, they're not based on their profits, they're based on, like what you said, network effects and moneyness. What do you think, like, layer ones over the next 10 years are good investments, or are they just like, kind of commodities now, and that there just be infrastructure that no one really trades or thinks about that much? Like, all the value is created on top of them, like the inverse of the way it's been in crypto for so long, where only the infrastructure got valued up, the applications didn't. Now potentially it'll be the applications that get bided up, the applications that people use and that people make money on, as opposed to the infrastructure. I'm still not sure on that myself. It's kind of hard to know.
Yeah, this argument has gone back and forth a lot in the past like 10 years or so. I think it's like the fat app versus the fat protocol thesis. And where does the value accrue? It's a tough question to answer, especially because when you have an application that dominates flows or dominates revenues, what so often happens is they go off and build their own stack. Like you saw that with Uni, they built their Uniswap, they built Unichain, and you get all these layer twos as well. And anytime you get an application that, like I said, it just tries to own the entire stack, and it owns the sequencer, it owns the validator set, whatever. So it's kind of hard to compare because it's not necessarily a chain at that. I don't know. It's a lot easier to value these revenue generating applications versus, like you said, the chain. I do think chains are here to stay because you need that fertile playing field to try new things. I don't think Ethereum's going anywhere, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of general purpose chains. Maybe two, like maybe Ethereum and Solana, and that's it. And then everything else is a app specific chain, or maybe like a layer two on Ethereum. But I don't know why you would need any other general purpose chains, which
interesting
means a lot of them have to go to zero, which will take a while. But I do think that's the inevitability.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, do you think there's still upside for Ethereum and Solana? Like, I know people say they're so grossly overvalued. Obviously, other people say they're so grossly undervalued. But
how do you value them? That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it's correct to necessarily value them based on revenue, just because you do get that network effect. You do get that layer of unknown to it. That what could it become that scales it to that next level. And I think there are efforts going on right now that do scale each of these chains to the next level, whether that's through privacy or whether that's through something like Fire Dancer, or I know Ethereum's working on some interesting stuff when it comes to like scaling blocks, or not scaling what you can put into a block and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I think it's too early to call if it's grossly overvalued. I think people are valuing in that growth, and I think that's just what you see.
Yeah, like if Solana is taking care of all the transactions of the Nasdaq, or like something on that order of magnitude, they probably are earning a lot of revenue at that point. So,
well, they earn decent revenue, I think, but it's nowhere. I think Ethereum trades at like 1 or 2,000x PE, so it's a little ridiculous. But that's why I mean, it's like, I think it ought to be ridiculous, and it's not that surprising.
Yeah, it's never going to really grow into that valuation, so it's valued on other things than revenue.
I think so.
Yeah. We've been talking for almost an hour. Maybe if there's any closing projects or niches that you think are interesting, or for the whole cycle, or for the next, rotation, please share if there is anything we didn't touch on.
No, I think I'll just leave people with, like, be curious with this stuff. I think there is just so much edge to be found in curiosity. Like, if there's a new application that comes out, just go and push the buttons, like use a burner wallet or whatever, and use proper precautions, but actually go and try the applications, because a lot of people don't. They just go off of what other people say on the timeline or what their buddies tell them. But there is just night and day difference between using the application versus hearing a secondhand account of what other people are saying about the application. So I think go out and use stuff, click buttons, and I mean, you might get a nice airdrop out of it too. And I think getting that personal experience lets you not have to rely on others for their thoughts, and go write and put your thoughts down on paper and share that with others. I think collaborate, find a community where you can grow and ask questions and you're comfortable sharing ideas. And I think that's going to level you up a lot more than just listening to us ramble on.
100%. I think that's really good advice. And yeah, maybe just say, like, a great place to join if you want to, if you don't know where to start looking, probably would be Blocmates. You also put out a lot of free information.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we put out for free. Most of us stuff we put out for free, honestly.
Exactly.
Yeah, but hop in the Discord. The Blockmates Discord, I think, is a great way to get started. There's a couple trading channels and people sharing ideas. Obviously, a lot of the chat happens on the private side, but we still do have a lot of people that join on the free side and chat and share ideas. But yeah, find a community, even if it's not with Blockmates. Find one that you can share ideas, and it's not people just yelling at each other and sharing tickers and dunking on people when they don't buy their tickers. There's a lot of toxicity in crypto. Just try to avoid that if you can.
Yeah, 100%. I think that kind of, the trenches are not the place to be looking. Like, those kind
not
of
the place to live. You visit the trenches to make money, and then you go home to your groups where you can actually, like, be civilized human beings.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, thank you so much, 563. I really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, man, this is a lot of fun. Do it again sometime.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Thanks everyone who's watching, and we'll catch you all soon. Cheers, man.
See you guys.
Talk to you later.